Hello everyone. Today you will see a story of great wisdom and love with our life companions, animals. I invite you to subscribe to the channel now so you don't miss any videos. Tell us in the comments where you watch us from. Let's build this incredible community of God. Don't forget to like to support us, and let's go. Hello, my name is Ethan, and today I'm genuinely excited to share a story with you that has deeply moved me. This is a testimony that's not just about a pet, but about a life-changing experience. In this story, we'll discover the real purpose of our animal companions, which goes far beyond the role of simply keeping us company or lifting our spirits. There's a much deeper, more spiritual reason behind their presence in our lives, and this story will reveal just how important that role is. Stay with me until the end, because I believe this message will resonate with you on a level you never expected. It all began in a way I never could have predicted. 10 years ago, I lost my wife, Sarah, to a disease that took everything from us. The way she fought so quietly, never once complaining, even as her body betrayed her, is something I'll never forget. She was everything to me. Losing her left a hole in my life that nothing seemed to fill. Sarah's passing was a turning point for me, and I couldn't shake the feeling of being completely alone in this world. I moved into a small apartment in the city's old quarter, the kind of place where time seems to slow down. My kids, Alex and Lily, have their own lives to lead. Alex works abroad, and Lily is close by, but like most young adults, is wrapped up in her own busy schedule. The days blur together, and sometimes I just watch the world move by from my window, wondering if anyone else notices the emptiness that fills my heart. One afternoon, out of the blue, I got a call from Lily. Her voice was tinged with hesitation, which instantly caught my attention. She asked me if I could help her out by taking care of her dog, Max, while she went on a ski trip with some friends. I could sense a little nervousness in her tone as she explained that she couldn't find anyone else who was willing to look after him. Now, I've never been much of an animal person. In fact, I've always felt a bit uncomfortable around them. The constant shedding of fur, the need for attention, and the messes they tend to leave behind. I never quite understood the appeal, but as she spoke, I could hear how much this meant to her and how stressed she was about leaving him behind. I wasn't thrilled by the idea, but I could tell how much she cared about Max, and I didn't want to let her down. I thought it would be a short, simple task, a week at most, and I'd be able to manage. It wasn't like I had a full social calendar or anything. I figured I could just stick to my routine while taking care of him. After all, it would only be for a short time. Plus, Lily promised that she'd check in every day to make sure everything was going smoothly. That night, I reluctantly agreed. I wasn't sure what to expect, but I assured myself I'd make it work. Little did I know that simple favor would lead to something far greater than I ever imagined. Max was about to become the unexpected companion I never thought I needed. The next day, Lily dropped Max off, and I immediately noticed the contrast between my quiet apartment and the energy he brought into the space. Max wasn't a small dog. He was a large golden retriever with soft fur that seemed to catch the light in a way that made him look almost magical. He wagged his tail energetically as soon as he stepped inside, circling around me as if he were trying to figure me out. I didn't know what to do with him at first. I just stood there awkwardly, watching him with a mixture of confusion and mild annoyance. I tried to get back to my usual routine, but Max had other plans. He followed me everywhere. Into the kitchen, into the living room, and even into my bedroom when I sat down to read. At first I found it a bit overwhelming, but as the hours passed, I started to realize something strange. Max's presence was, in some way, filling the emptiness in the apartment. It wasn't that he was doing anything extraordinary. It was just his constant companionship, his gentle nudges for attention, and the way he looked up at me with those big, soulful eyes. I found myself talking to him, even though I didn't expect to. The silence that had once felt so heavy seemed to lift a little. Lily checked in regularly, of course, asking how things were going, but all I could think about was how different the house felt with Max around. He wasn't just a dog. He was slowly becoming a part of my daily routine. His need for attention, his playfulness, and even the way he would lay by my feet as I watched TV in the evening. It all started to make the silence feel less oppressive. That first night, Max climbed onto the couch beside me, something I didn't encourage but didn't stop either. He rested his head on my lap and just stared up at me, as if waiting for some sign from me. I wasn't sure what to do, but I absent-mindedly scratched behind his ears. To my surprise, I felt a sense of calm wash over me. It was subtle, almost imperceptible at first, but it was there. As the days passed, I began to notice a shift. Max wasn't just a dog who needed feeding and walks. He was a quiet companion, a presence that didn't demand too much but offered exactly what I needed without me realizing it. A few days later, things started to take an unexpected turn. I had just returned from the grocery store, and as I stepped inside the apartment, I immediately noticed the chaos. Max had managed to get into the living room, and the couch cushions were scattered everywhere, as though a tornado had hit the place. There was fluff everywhere, white stuffing all over the floor, as if it had snowed inside. I couldn't help but laugh, even though I was also a little frustrated. This wasn't what I had envisioned when I agreed to take care of him. I tried to stay calm, telling myself that dogs do these things, especially when they're alone for too long. But as I started cleaning up, I noticed something else. Max was lying on the floor in the corner, watching me with those big, innocent eyes, as if nothing had happened. He didn't seem the least bit guilty, and that's when it hit me. He wasn't just trying to annoy me. He was seeking attention. He was acting out because he missed Lily, or maybe because he was bored and needed someone to engage with him. I realized how much I'd been neglecting him in my own headspace. The next day, as I was preparing dinner, I heard a loud crash coming from the living room. I rushed in, only to find the glass cabinet in the corner, where I kept some of Sarah's most treasured belongings, completely knocked over. Glass shards were scattered everywhere, and some of Sarah's personal items, like her favorite books and trinkets, had fallen to the ground. I knelt down and picked up the broken picture frame, my heart heavy with grief. It was one of the last pictures we took together. Holding it, the smell of Sarah's perfume seemed to linger in the air, and I could feel the tears welling up in my eyes. I had been holding on to so much pain for so long, burying it deep within me, not allowing myself to fully grieve. But as I stood there, surrounded by the remnants of Sarah's memory, I couldn't hold it in anymore. I let the tears fall. They streamed down my face, a release of all the years of sadness, loss, and loneliness I had been carrying inside. Max, who had been quietly sitting by the door, got up and slowly walked over to me. He sat down next to me, his eyes soft and understanding. Then, to my surprise, he placed his head on my lap and looked up at me with such tenderness that I could feel my heart breaking in a way I hadn't felt in years. At that moment, something shifted inside of me. It wasn't just the grief that had been released, but something deeper, something that made me realize how important it was to have someone, even if they were four-legged, by your side. Max, in his own quiet way, had broken through the walls I'd built around my heart. And I understood in that instant that sometimes healing doesn't come from words or people, but from the simple, unconditional love of an animal who just wants to be there for you. As the days went by, I started to appreciate Max in ways I hadn't expected. His presence became a comfort, like a soft, constant reminder that life could still hold moments of peace and connection, even amidst the pain. I'd always been a man of routine. Quiet mornings, evenings spent reading, the usual solitary activities that filled my days. But now, my routine had shifted. Max needed walks, he needed playtime, he needed attention, and even though at first I saw this as an inconvenience, it became clear that this was exactly what I needed. His energy was a force that cut through my solitude, and each day I found myself looking forward to our walks, to the simple companionship of a dog who had no agenda other than being by my side. It wasn't just the physical presence that mattered, though. Max had a way of making me feel seen. There were days when I would talk to him, not expecting any reply, but just needing to speak the words I had kept inside for so long. And strangely, it felt good to say them out loud. His eyes would meet mine, full of patience as if he understood. In a way, he did. Without saying a word, Max became the companion I never knew I needed, and in doing so, he helped me begin to heal. One evening, as I sat in my chair, Max curled up next to me, I found myself thinking back to the time when I had been so reluctant to take him in. I had never been the type to believe in the therapeutic power of animals. I always thought it was just an excuse for people who couldn't deal with their own issues. But now here I was, sitting with a dog who had slowly become my closest companion, teaching me more about love and patience than I had ever imagined. It was then that I realized, sometimes the universe has a way of sending us exactly what we need, even if we don't recognize it at first. Max wasn't just filling the space that Sarah had left behind. He was teaching me something that I had missed, a deeper understanding of unconditional love and the importance of presence. Every day, Max reminded me that healing doesn't happen overnight, but it does happen, one small step at a time. One evening, not long after I had started to feel the shift, something happened that changed everything. I was out walking Max, just like we did every evening, when I decided to take a different route. As we walked through a quieter part of the neighborhood, something felt off. I couldn't quite put my finger on it, but I felt a tension in the air. Max, usually so calm, had his ears perked up and his tail was stiff, an unmistakable sign that something was wrong. I looked around, but everything seemed normal until I heard footsteps behind me. They were slow at first, then quickened, almost as if someone was following us. My heart rate picked up as I turned down a narrow alley to avoid whoever was behind us. But as I turned, the footsteps sped up too. I knew something wasn't right. Suddenly, 3 men appeared in front of me. I froze for a second, trying to figure out what to do. They were blocking the path, and their expressions were anything but friendly. They were clearly after something. My purse, my wallet, I didn't know. Fear surged through me, and I instinctively reached down to Max, who was growling now, his stance protective. One of the men stepped forward, demanding that I hand over my things. My hands shook as I tried to think. I knew I couldn't outrun them, and I couldn't reason with them. My heart was racing and panic was setting in when, suddenly, Max lunged. Without hesitation, he jumped toward the man with the knife who was coming toward me, his growl growing louder, more fierce. The next few seconds were a blur. I heard the man yell in pain, but before I could react, there was a sharp scream, and Max collapsed to the ground, blood staining the pavement beneath him. My world seemed to slow down. Time stopped, and I couldn't move. The men fled, leaving everything behind, but I couldn't bring myself to care. All I could see was Max lying on the ground, motionless. My heart sank, and I felt my body go numb. I tried to scream for help, but my voice couldn't break through the panic that was suffocating me. I dropped to my knees beside him, my hands shaking as I reached out to him, but I could feel the emptiness in the air. Max was gone. I felt a sharp pain in my ankle as I stumbled, trying to move, but it was too much. I tripped over a crack in the sidewalk, and everything went black. I don't remember much about what happened after I lost consciousness. When I woke up, I was in a hospital bed, the sterile smell of the room filling my senses. My head throbbed, and my ankle was bandaged. The events of that night felt like a dream, a nightmare, really. My thoughts were foggy, but as they cleared, the first thing that hit me was the emptiness. Max was gone, and the pain of that loss was more than I could bear. I couldn't stop thinking about him, about how he had protected me, how he had given his life for mine. I felt an overwhelming sense of guilt and grief. How could I have let him go through that? How could I not have protected him? I stayed in the hospital for a month, recovering from a fractured ankle and the trauma to my head. The pain in my body wasn't nearly as overwhelming as the ache in my heart. I couldn't stop thinking about Max, the dog who had come into my life and completely changed it. In the silence of those long hospital nights, I had nothing to focus on but the memories of him. Every time I closed my eyes, I could see his face, the way his eyes looked at me with such trust and love. He had been my companion, my friend, my protector. One night, lying in my hospital bed, I had a strange sensation. It was like a weight had been lifted from my chest. I felt a sense of peace, as if Max's spirit was somehow there with me, watching over me, telling me it was okay. And for the first time in weeks, I felt a small spark of hope. Max may have been gone, but the love he had shown me, the bond we had shared, would never disappear. It was something I could carry with me forever. When I finally returned home, the emptiness in my apartment felt suffocating. Max's absence was everywhere, in the quiet corners of the rooms where he used to be, in the space he had filled just by being there. The house felt cold, lifeless, and I couldn't bear it. But as the days passed, I started to realize that I had to keep going, that I couldn't let the pain keep me from living. I had to honor Max's memory and the love he had given me by moving forward, even if it meant facing life without him by my side. Months went by, and while the pain of losing Max never fully disappeared, I began to find moments of peace again. One day, as I was walking through a local animal shelter, something caught my eye. A small dog with gentle eyes and a quiet demeanor. His name was Jean-Pierre. He was different from Max in many ways. He wasn't as energetic, but there was something about him that immediately drew me in. He had this calm presence, as if he knew what I had been through, as if he understood the silence I had been living with. I adopted Jean-Pierre that day, and from that moment he became my companion, my new little friend. He wasn't Max, of course, but he brought a new kind of peace into my life. Jean-Pierre didn't try to replace what I had lost. Instead, he helped me heal in a different way. He didn't fill the space Max had left, but he made it clear that love doesn't have to be the same to be meaningful. Jean-Pierre and I spent our days together in a kind of quiet harmony. He taught me the importance of patience, of being present in the moment. He would curl up beside me at night, just like Max used to, and I began to realize that life, while never quite the same after loss, still had beauty and joy to offer. I knew deep in my heart that Max's mission had been completed, that he had come into my life at the exact moment I needed him the most, and now Jean-Pierre had come into my life to guide me through a new chapter. Though both dogs were different, their purpose in my life was the same, to show me that love, healing, and companionship never truly disappear. They only transform. As the years passed, I began to understand something profound. The bond I had with Max, and now with Jean-Pierre, was part of something much larger than I had ever realized. It wasn't just about companionship, it was about growth. These animals, in their purest form, were sent to teach us. They came into our lives at exactly the right time, to help us heal, to open our hearts, and to show us how to love without hesitation. There were still moments of grief, moments when I would miss Max so deeply it felt like a physical ache. But over time, those moments became less frequent, replaced by a deep sense of gratitude for what I had learned from him. Max had taught me how to open my heart again, how to trust, and how to receive love freely. And now, Jean-Pierre was teaching me how to appreciate the quiet moments in life, the simple things that we often overlook. One evening, as I sat on the porch with Jean-Pierre by my side, I had an epiphany. It wasn't just about the love I had received from these animals, it was about the love I was now able to give. I realized that everything I had been through, the pain, the loss, the heartache, had prepared me for this. It had led me to a place where I could finally accept that love is eternal. It doesn't end with loss. It transforms, it lives on, and it continues to shape who we are. In that moment, I felt at peace. I knew that Max's spirit was still with me in every lesson he had taught me, in every memory I carried with me. And I also knew that Jean-Pierre was helping me continue the journey, guiding me to be a better version of myself every day. I had come to understand that love, in all its forms, is the greatest gift we have, and that no matter what happens, we are never truly alone as long as we carry the love of those who came before us, both human and animal. One evening, as I was reflecting on everything that had happened over the years, I felt a sudden urge to visit Max's resting place. I had never truly said goodbye. I had never truly allowed myself to mourn him the way I needed to. I'd been so focused on surviving, on moving forward, that I didn't take the time to honor what he had given me, his love, his protection, and the joy he brought into my life. As I stood by his grave, a wave of emotions washed over me. I realized that Max wasn't just a pet. He was a spiritual guide sent to me when I needed him most. He had shown me that healing is a journey, not a destination. He had taught me that love is not limited to a single lifetime, and that the bond we share with those we love, human or animal, never truly ends. It transforms, it evolves, but it remains with us, forever. I closed my eyes and whispered a thank you, feeling a deep sense of peace settle in my heart. Max's mission had been completed, and he had fulfilled his role in my life. But that didn't mean he was gone. His spirit lived on, not just in the memories I held, but in the way he had changed me. In the way I loved now, in the way I understood the importance of compassion, kindness, and the simple act of being there for someone, no matter what. Jean-Pierre, who had been by my side the entire time, sat quietly next to me, sensing the shift in the air. I could feel his presence, comforting me, as if he too understood the significance of the moment. I smiled at him, knowing that he was now my guide, my companion for this chapter of my life. I had learned that love is eternal, that our four-legged friends are more than just pets. They are part of our journey, sent to help us grow, to heal, and to understand the deeper meaning of life. As I stood there, with Max's memory in my heart and Jean-Pierre by my side, I felt a sense of peace that I had never known before. The bond between us, between all the creatures who come into our lives, is something sacred. It's a reminder that love is what connects us all. And even though Max was no longer physically here, I knew that his love would stay with me forever. As time passed, I began to see the world through a different lens. I realized that everything in life happens for a reason, even the most painful moments. The loss of Max, the bond we shared, and the healing that came after, it all had a purpose. It wasn't just about my journey, it was about the lessons I had learned along the way and how I could now pass those lessons on. I started to see that every animal, every person, every encounter we have in life carries with it a message. Sometimes we don't recognize it right away, but when we reflect on the connections we make, we realize that they are all part of a greater plan. The love we give and receive, the kindness we show, and the lessons we learn from our companions. These are the things that shape us, that guide us toward becoming the best versions of ourselves. Jean-Pierre continues to teach me new things every day. He reminds me to be present, to appreciate the small moments, and to never take for granted the love that surrounds us. And while the pain of losing Max will always be a part of me, I now understand that it's okay to let go. It's okay to move forward and embrace the future, knowing that the love we've shared will never fade. In the quiet moments of my life, I still feel Max's presence. It's not a feeling of sadness anymore, but one of deep gratitude. His love was a gift, and I will carry it with me always. And I know that one day when my time comes, I will see him again. Until then, I will continue to live each day with love in my heart, knowing that the bond we share with our four-legged friends is a bond that lasts forever. Thank you for listening to my story. If you've ever had an animal who has changed your life, who has touched your heart in a way that only those who've experienced it can understand, I would love to hear your story. Share it in the comments and share this video with anyone who needs to hear the message of unconditional love and the eternal bond we share with our companions. See you tomorrow on our channel, Daily Faith.